හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Thursday the 28th of December 2023. Contagion. Over 700 measles cases reported so far this year. Vaccine rejection revealed as a major reason behind the measles outbreak. Contraction. 60% of Sri Lankan households have seen a decrease in household income, reveals the Statistics Office. Ambitious targets. 1.4 trillion rupees to be raised from VAT next year. Measures to be taken to provide relief once government revenue stabilizes. Towards the future. National Artificial Intelligence Strategy to be formulated next year. Over 20,000 jobs to be created in the ICT sector, says State Minister of Technology, Kanaka Herath.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
නියම මෝල්ට් සාරය සමග මැලිබන් මෝල්ට් ටැන් රුපියල් 750ක් පමණයි.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to AdaDerana First at 9. I'm Aditya Dirusingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now in your top story tonight, the Ministry of Health disclosed that a total of 710 measles cases have been identified so far since May this year. The highest number of measles cases have been reported from the Colombo district. Meanwhile, the sudden rise in the highly contagious disease locally has garnered the attention of the World Health Organization owing to its rapid speed of transmission, far surpassing that of the COVID-19 virus. Speaking of the causes behind the sudden rise in measles cases, health experts pointed out that the general public's recent trend of rejecting the measles vaccine based on unscientific opinions remains a major concern. The measles virus is an enveloped ribonucleic acid virus of the genus Morbillivirus. It has proven to be highly contagious, and an infected person will often transmit the virus to over 90% of unprotected close contacts. Although the measles virus can affect anyone, it is most common in children. According to health experts, the virus enters the body through the respiratory tract, exposing symptoms within weeks of the infection. The symptoms of measles typically include high fever, cough, runny nose, and red and watery eyes. In 2019, Sri Lanka was able to eliminate measles from the island completely following a successful vaccination campaign. Thus, Sri Lanka was able to enter an exclusive list of the first 5 countries to have successfully eliminated the virus within their national borders. However, after 4 years, a significant amount of measles cases were reported once again in Sri Lanka. According to the data released by the Ministry of Health, over 700 cases of measles have been reported island-wide since May this year. The highest number of cases were reported from the Colombo, Jaffna and Gampaha districts. In the meantime, a significant amount of cases have also been identified from the Kalutara, Galle, Matara, Kandy, Kurunegala districts and from Kalmune in the Ampara district.
2023 මැයි 23 වෙනිදා පළමු රෝගියා වාර්තා වෙනවා. කොළඹ ප්‍රදේශයෙන් එන්නත් ලබා නොගත් කෙනෙක්ගෙන් තමයි පළවෙනිම රෝගියා වාර්තා වෙන්නේ. මේක දැන් සමහරව සරලව ගන්න එපා කියන පණිවිඩයක් මාධ්‍යවලින් ජනතාව දැනුවත් කරන්න. මොකද සරම්ප හැදුනොත් සාමාන්‍ය රෑෂ් එකක් තියෙන උණ තත්ත්වයක් විතරක් නෙමෙයි සමහර වෙලාවට සංකූලතාවලට යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ සංකූලතාව සමහර නියුමෝනියා තත්ත්වයක්, මිහිරිවීමක් නැත්නම් මොළයට හානි සිදු වීමක්, අන්ධවීමක්, සිවියර් ඩයරියා එහෙම නැත්නම් මරණයෙන් කෙලවර වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මූලික අවධියේදී විශේෂයෙන් කුඩා ළමයින්ට මේක වැළඳුනොත් මූලික අවස්ථාවේදී රෝගය සුව වෙනවා. නමුත් ඒකේ බලපෑමක් විදියට ඉදිරි අවුරුදු 5-6 ඇතුළත ඒ දරුවා මොළේ ආබාධි තත්ත්වයකටපත් වෙලා මරණයටපත් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ තත්ත්වයටපත් වුනොත් කිසිම ප්‍රතිකාරයක් නැහැ. සොඳ කරන්න බෑ. අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මාරාන්තික තත්ත්වයකටපත් වෙනවා.
Taking the sudden rise of measles infections into account, Sri Lanka sought advice from the National Advisory Committee on Communicable Diseases and the South Asian Regional Office of the World Health Organization.
Measles is one of the most infectious diseases that we have. The measles virus spreads much faster than
COVID, If we vaccinate, we can get rid of the disease.
Then in 2019, Sri Lanka achieved measles elimination status by WHO, and the high coverage of measles, first dose at 9 months and the second dose at 3 years, were key contributing factors to achieving this. Now, once again, as we have heard, there is a measles outbreak. The numbers are fairly small, but it's important to take it seriously, that people actively participate. Media has an important role to play in getting the word out, so to speak.
WHO fully supports the MOH's action in response to the ongoing measles outbreak in the country. This year, on the 23rd of May, a first case of measles was detected, and a total of about 710 cases have been reported up to November. Measles can be a major childhood disease, which can and must be prevented.
As the country completely eliminated measles a few years ago, concerns have been raised on how the disease has made such a sudden comeback.
අපේ රට තුලත් අවිද්‍යාත්මක මත පිහිටලා ළමා එන්නත් කරන්නේ ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරන තත්ත්වයක් අපි මේක දැක්කා. මේක යම් වර්ධනයක් තියෙනවා. මේ ඇති වෙලා තියෙන සරම්ප තත්ත්වය ආරම්භයේට අපිට මේක විශාල බලපෑමක් ඇති කරලා තියෙනවා. උපකල්පනය කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ ආකාරයට රට තුල සරම්ප එන්නත් ලබා නොගත් අය 7500ත් 10000ත් අතර ප්‍රමාණයක් යම් ප්‍රමාණයකට ඉන්නවා කියන උපකල්පනයට එන්න පුළුවන්. එන්නත් ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරන කණ්ඩායම් වැඩිම ප්‍රතිශතයක් ඉන්නේ කොළඹ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ තුල. 1352 න් 627 දෙනෙක්. ඒ කියන්නේ 50ක් විතර ඉන්නේ කොළඹ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ. මියුනිසිපල් කවුන්සිල් ඒරියා එක ඇතුලේ තමයි ඒකෙන් අති බහුතරයක් ඉන්නේ. එක් ආසාදිතයෙකුට පුළුවන් දල වශයෙන් 16 දෙනෙකුට බෝ කරන්න. හරිද? අපි කොවිඩ් ගත්තොත් 4 දෙනෙකුටයි බෝ කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක හිතන්න පුළුවන් මොනතරම් වේගයෙන් මේක සම්ප්‍රේෂණය වීම හැකියාවක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට රට තුල රෝගීන් එක්කෙනා දෙන්න හරි වාර්තා වෙනවා කියන්නේ තව වැඩි වීමේ අවදානමක් තියෙනවා.
Now, as the Sri Lankan economy collapsed off the back of several macroeconomic shocks last year, triggering an unprecedented economic crisis, 60% of Sri Lanka's households have seen a decrease in household income. This startling statistic was released by the Department of Census and Statistics, which recently conducted a comprehensive study into the impact of Sri Lanka's recent economic meltdown. The Department of Census and Statistics further uncovered that 91% of Sri Lankan households recorded an increase in household expenditure as inflation surged to record highs.
As a series of exogenous and endogenous shocks brought the Sri Lankan economy to the brink of complete collapse, its people faced unprecedented economic uncertainty. In the face of such adversity, the government and relevant officials took a series of stern measures to stabilize the ailing economy. However, as the crisis reached its peak, Sri Lankan households found themselves grappling with a range of challenges affecting daily life. These challenges extended to income management, fulfillment of commitments, and ensuring the well-being of family members. In a recent survey conducted by the Department of Census and Statistics, it was revealed that 60.5% of the total households in the country have seen a decrease in their total household average monthly income due to the impact of the economic crisis last year. The survey also shows that 91% of the households experienced an increase in their total household average monthly expenditure. According to the Department of Census and Statistics, the economic crisis has pushed 22% of Sri Lanka's households into debt. Meanwhile, as the crisis affected household disposable income, 7% of the total population changed their health treatment procedure. Among the patients who altered their treatment procedures due to the economic crisis, 35.1% changed their treatment location, while 33.9% resorted to using drugs only when their illness reached a critical stage. These statistics depict the plethora of ways through which patients adjusted their treatment approaches in response to the economic challenges. Meanwhile, schooling activities of 54.9% of all individuals between the ages of 3 and 21 have also been negatively affected by the crisis. According to the published data, 47.3% of all employed individuals have encountered being subjected to changes in their primary occupation as the economy shrank. These changes primarily include changes such as work break or temporary absences, reductions in working hours, cuts in pay or allowances, and income loss. The report said households in Sri Lanka have employed diverse livelihood-based coping strategies to address the challenges of inadequate food access and availability. According to the figure published by the Department of Census and Statistics, 21.9% of households nationwide had implemented crisis strategies, such as relying on less preferred and cheaper food options, borrowing food or seeking assistance from relatives or other sources to address the scarcity of food amidst severe financial constraints.
Now, meanwhile, as public outcry increases amid tax hikes, Director of the State Income Unit of the Presidential Secretariat's Office, KKI Eranda, claims that the government loses 2/3 of its expected government revenue due to three main leakages, while pointing out that there is a 140 million rupee deficit in value-added tax collection during the year so far. The Director of the State Income Unit further reveals that next year the government plans to raise 1.4 trillion rupees through the value-added tax. Meanwhile, tax policy advisor to the Ministry of Finance, Tanuja Pereira, claims that while measures have already been taken to reduce the adverse impact of the tax hike, further measures to that extent will also be taken in the future.
අපි 2023 වර්ෂයට අපේක්ෂා කරා එකතු කළාගේ මත බද්දෙන් බිලියන 600ක් ඉක්මවා යන ආදායම. නමුත් අපට තාමත් මේ වන විට ලැබිලා තියෙන්නේ බිලියන 460ක විතර ආදායම. එතකොට නියම බලාපොරොත්තු වුණු ආදායම අපට ලැබිලා නැහැ. 2024 වර්ෂයට රාජ්‍ය අපේක්ෂා කරනවා එකතු කළාගේ මත බද්දෙන් බිලියන 1400ක ආදායමක් උත්පාදනය කරන්න. අපි හොයලා බැලුවා මේ එකතු කළාගේ මත බද්ද නිසි ඉලක්කය එන්නේ නැත්තේ ඇයි කියලා. එතකොට අපට හොයාගන්න පුළුවන් උනේ බදු කාන්දුවීම් තුනක් හරහා මේ රජයට නිසි බදු ආදායම එකතු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. දෙකක පවන බදු ආදායමක් රජයට නොලැබී යනවා. වර්ෂයකට මිලියන 60 කියන සීමාව තමයි ඉදිරියේදී එන්නේ එකතු කළාගේ මත බද්දට ලියාපදිංචි වෙන සීමාව. ඒ කියන්නේ වර්ෂයට මිලියන 60ට වඩා පිරිවැටුමක් තියෙන ව්‍යාපාර එකතු කළාගේ මත බද්දට ලියාපදිංචි යුතුයි. දැන් අපි බැලුවොත් ලංකාවේ මෙහෙම දැනට දේශාධන දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ නිකුත් කරපු වාර්තාවල දැක්කෙන ආකාරයට 2022 වෙනකොට මේ සඳහා ලියාපදිංචි වෙච්ච අය ඉන්නේ 11000ට අඩුයි. හැබැයි දැන් අපි සොයලා බැලුවොත් දැන් මේ වෙනකොට 13000ට කිට්ටු වෙන ප්‍රමාණයක් ඉන්නවා. නමුත් මේ පිරිසෙන් සක්‍රියව බදු ගෙවන පිරිස 7000කට වඩා අඩුයි. ඊළඟ කාරණේ තමයි බදු නිදහස් කිරීම ඉවත් කිරීම. එක එක අවස්ථාවල නොඑක් ආකාරයෙන් සංශෝධන එකතු කරපු හින්දා මේ බදු පනත අනවශ්‍ය විදිහට සංකීර්ණ වෙලක් තියෙනවා. සමහර නිදහස් කිරීම ආයතන පදනම් කරගෙන දීලා. හැබැයි සීමා කිරීම කරත් ජනතාවට විශාල බලපෑමක් ඇති වෙන කාරණා වලින් නිදහස් කිරීම ඉවත් කරලා නැහැ. උදාහරණයක් කියනවා නම් අධ්‍යාපන සේවාව සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම නිදහස් තියෙනවා. විදුලිය නිදහස් තියෙනවා. සෞඛ්‍ය නිදහස්. ඖෂධ නිදහස්. එතන මගී ප්‍රවාහනය නිදහස්. ආහාර වලට ගන්න සියලු එළවලු සියලු පළතුරු මේ යටතේ බද්දටත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
මහ බැංකුව මීට පෙර තිබුණු මුදල් ප්‍රතිපත්ති විවරණ දෙකේදීම ප්‍රකාශ කරා මේ ජනවාරි මාසයේ අපේක්ෂිත බදු සංශෝධනයත් එක්කම භාණ්ඩ හා සේවාවල මේ පොදු මිල මට්ටම වැඩිවීමේ වේගය එහෙම නැත්නම් උද්දමනය යම් වැඩිවීමක් සිද්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ අනුව දැන් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා 5%ක මට්ටමකට හිමින් වැඩි වෙලා ළඟා වෙයි කියලා. මුදල් ප්‍රතිපත්ති විවරණයේදී පැහැදිලිව අපි ඉදිරිපත් කරා අපේ උද්දමන ඉදිරි දැක්ම කොහොමද තියෙන්නේ කියලා. යම් කිසි වැඩිවීමක් ඉදිරි මාස කිහිපය තුළ සිදු වෙවි. නමුත් එය අපි අර අපේක්ෂා කරන විදිහේ ඉහතා ඉහළ සාමාන්‍ය මහ ජනතාව අපේක්ෂා කරන ඉතා ඉහළ වැඩිවීමක් නෙමෙයි.
කවුරුත් දන්නවා 2019 දී 15ක පැවතිච්ච බදු අනුපාතය 8% දක්වා අඩු වුණා. මේ 8 දක්වා අඩු වෙච්ච එක අවුරුදු 3ක්ම 8% කියන සීමාව තමයි පැවතුනේ. හැබැයි ඒක දැන් ආයි 15ට ගෙනල්ලා තියන් ඉඳලා අර වැටිච්ච ප්‍රමාණයෙන් ගොඩ එන්න අමාරු. ඒ නිසා තමයි මේ වෙලේ 15 18 දක්වා වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. රාජ්‍ය ආදායම යම් ස්ථාවර තලයකට ආවත් එක්කම මේ අනුපාත අඩු කිරීම කෙරෙහි රාජ්‍ය අවධානය යොමු වන බව සඳහන් කරන්න කැමතියි.
මේ අලුතෙන් බදු පැනවීමේදී ඒ වගේ ඒ වැට් බද්ද නිසා වෙන බලපෑම අවම කරන්න පුළුවන් පියවර රාශියක් අරගෙන තියෙනවා ගනිමින් පවතිනවා. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට සමහරක් භාණ්ඩවලට ආනයනය කරනකොට වරාය හා ගුවන්තොටුපොළ බදු අදාළ වෙනවා. ඒතකොට අපි කරන්නේ වරාය හා ගුවන්තොටුපොළ බදු ඉවත් කරලා වැට් බද්ද තියා ගැනීම හරහා වැට් බද්ද වැඩිවීම නිසා වෙන බලපෑම අවම කරන්න. මේ වගේ සාධනීය පියවර කීපයක් අරගෙන තියෙනවා. මිනිස්සු ගිහිල්ලා සමුදට මන් දන්නා බඩුවක් ගන්න ගියාම බඩුව වැඩි කළා කියන ආණ්ඩුවෙන් ගහපු ටැක්ස් එක හින්දායි මේ වැඩි උනේ කියලා. හැබැයි මිනිස්සුන්ටත් පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන බිලක් ඉල්ලන්න. මොකද බිලේ ඒකට වැට් බද්ද පෙන්වන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඒක වැරදි විදිහට මේ දේවල් පාවිච්චි කළා අයථා ලාභ ලබා ගැනීම ඇත්තටම සිද්ධ වෙනවා. ඒ தත්ත්වය වළක්ව ගන්න පුළුවන් තරම් කටයුතු කරනවා. නමුත් නීතියෙන් හැමදේම කරන්න බෑ.
Now, former Secretary to the President, Austin Fernandez, says that former governments, administrators and politicians should take some of the responsibility for the country's civil war. Joining at Hyde Park with Indivari Amuatta on AdaDerana 24, former Secretary to the President, Austin Fernandez, says actions of politicians representing the minorities in Sri Lanka escalated the situation in the country, which was already affected due to the passing of the Sinhala Only Act and the 1983 Black July. He further emphasized that public administrators who were in positions of power should have done more to prevent some of the darkest episodes in Sri Lanka's history.
So the turning point, do you say it's the Sinhala only act, or were there other contributing factors that made one community feel neglected, marginalized against the rest of the country?
I think even as administrators, sometimes we may have we would have been pushed into certain situations where we had to be a bit, sometimes against your conscience also, sometimes it would have happened. It is not only the Sinhala only law, the Sinhala only situation, then the 1983 Black July. After that only lot of Tamil politicians started asking for things. Now, for example, would you believe if I tell you that 1985 or so, I think 85, there was a proposal made by Mr. Amirthalingam and Mr. Sivasidambaram. And they said, when you give land, giving Mahaveli land, you give so many to Tamils, so many to Muslims. Why do people ask for that? Because they got the impression that we are colonizing certain areas with Sinhalese people. I personally feel the policymakers should have thought of these issues. Of course, I don't think that it is the same thing in the minds of other people. When I was GN earlier, I remember there were applications called to be settling people in Mahaveli area. I told the Tamil politicians from the estate sector, why don't you send your applications? We will get some people land in that area, all irrigated land. And then when I said that, they never took any interest. The reason for that is the estate sector politicians, they thought if these people go to Kalawava area, we will lose the numbers in no area. Therefore, our representation will be attacked, and our superiority with the people over here, and superiority even with the Sinhala politicians here, they are negotiating situation.
Is there a basis for the concerns that there were efforts by the politicians or the administrative service, the structure to colonize certain areas by...
I don't think colonization is a national policy. But then if you take the national policy business about land, you know, the only place where in the law, Sri Lankan law to my knowledge, where national policy should be done in some specific way according to the constitution, that is only about land. In Annex 2 of the 13th Amendment, they say that National Land Commission has to, and then there should be these experts in that case, there should be a secretariat for land, then they must make the policy, and that policy should be adhered even by the provincial councils. Everything is there. It had been there in the law from 1978 onwards today. We have never heard of the National Land Commission which have been appointed. How many years? So who is responsible to appoint? The government. So therefore government is politicians once again. And then people who should have pushed this, people like us who are in the public service. I was never in the lands ministry, but those are the people.
Meanwhile, State Minister of Technology Kanaka Herath says that the goals for 2024 include finalizing the 5G roadmap, formulating a national AI strategy and establishing a national AI center to foster innovation and entrepreneurship in the AI space. The minister further said that in the coming year, the ministry plans to increase the ICT literacy level to 60% in Sri Lanka while creating over 20,000 jobs in the ICT sector within the next few years. For more on this, let's hear from State Minister of Technology Kanaka Herath himself on our next segment, 2024 and beyond.
Embracing the fourth industrial revolution and accelerating the digitalization in Sri Lanka. We aim to drive our nation towards a thriving digital economy valued at $15 billion USD by 2030. For the first time ever, we unveiled a comprehensive blueprint of digital transformation and encompassing infrastructure, skill development and economic empowerment. Rural connectivity, closing the digital divide is crucial. We are building 276 communication towers with Ratnapura district nearing completion to ensure even the remote villages are connected. Digital literacy, bridging the knowledge gap is paramount. With 60% target by 2024, we are collaborating with the Ministry of Education to promote digital literacy across all age groups, IT and BPM jobs. Recognizing the potential of the sector, we've secured 750 million for IT training programs aiming to bridge the talent gap and creating over 20,000 jobs in the next few years. Connected digital government. We are establishing a secure and transparent digital government throughout the projects like Sri Lanka Unique Digital ID and National Spatial Data Infrastructure. We are piloting a government-wide digital payment system with a March 2024 completion target. Looking ahead to 2024 on focusing focusing remaining unwavering. Finalizing the 5G roadmap, ensuring Sri Lanka embraces the next generation of connectivity. Formulating a national AI strategy, harnessing the power of AI for sustainable development and economic growth. Establishing a national AI center, fostering innovation and entrepreneurship in AI space. We understand the challenges, tax amendments, grey markets, brain drain, and actively working on solutions. Our partnership with industry and the international agencies and collaborating with other ministries and institutions demonstrate our commitment to collective action. Technology is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. Throughout adaptation, we can revive our economy, create new jobs, empower our youth, and bridge the digital divide.
Welcome back. Now in other local developments, 1,422 suspects have been apprehended over drug-related criminal activities during the past 24 hours in the latest iteration of the Yukthiya campaign launched by the Sri Lanka police. Now let us take you through the latest updates of the country's law and order as the Sri Lankan police attempts to curb the spread of narcotics island-wide.
A building in Kegol, which was suspected to be maintained by the suspect under the alias Kuduroshan, was investigated by the police subsequent to the issue of a warrant. It was revealed that the building in question had been constructed as a center to distribute narcotic substances. Meanwhile, the suspect under the alias Kuduroshan was apprehended at Warkapoli yesterday following a tip-off received by the police. The Police Special Task Force, together with the Army and Navy, carried out another operation of the Yukthiya program at the Fort Railway Station and several other areas early this morning. The operation led to the apprehension of 25 suspects. In the meantime, a special operation was conducted at the Fisheries Harbour in Kudavalla and several other areas. A person who had an outstanding warrant against him and 26 others from several areas around the country were arrested under suspicion. Accordingly, during the latest Yukthiya operation, 1,422 suspects were arrested over drug-related criminal activity within the past 24 hours, of which 35 suspects are being investigated on detention orders. In the meantime, 73 suspects registered by the Police Narcotics Bureau as listed criminals were also apprehended during yesterday's operations.
ඒ අනුව සකස් කරගෙන තියෙනවා හඳුනා ගැනීමේ ලේඛනයක් මොවුන් තවදුරටත් අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්නට බැරි නම් ප්‍රදේශයෙන් පලා ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා නම් මේ සැකකරුට එරෙහිව වරන්තුවක් ලබා ගැනීමට කටයුතු කරනවා. එමෙ වරන්තුවේ නියමිත දිනයට අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්නට බැරි නම් කරු අධිකරණයෙන් අපි විවෘත වරන්තුවක් ඔහුට එරෙහිව ලබා ගැනීමට කටයුතු කරනවා. මේ පුද්ගලයා සොයා ගැනීමට අපහසු නම් ඔහු සතු යම්කිසි දේපලක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒ ප්‍රකාශයට පත් කරනවා ඔහුගේ දේපල සම්. එම දේපල තහනමට ගැනීමට කටයුතු කරනවා. ඔහු අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්නා තුරු මේ සැකකරු ඇවිල්ලා අදාළ පොලිස් ස්ථානයට බාරවීමක් හෝ සොයා ගැනීමට නොහැකියාවක් තියෙනවා නම් ඔහුගේ දේපල පවා විකිණීමට අපරාධ සංග්‍රහය තියෙන බලතල ප්‍රකාරව කටයුතු කිරීමේ හැකියාව තියෙනවා.
Now, on the provincial economic performance last year, the Western Province accounted for 43.4% of the country's nominal GDP, the largest share of all provinces, followed by the Northwestern Province and the Central Province, contributing 11.2% and 10% respectively. According to the statistical report on provincial GDP issued by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the contributions to nominal GDP from the Western, Northwestern and the Uva provinces increased in 2022 compared to the previous year. Now let's take a look at the provincial breakdown of the country's GDP in 2022. The Western Province secured 43.4% of the country's nominal GDP, the largest share of all provinces. The Northwestern Province, which contributed 11.2%, and the Central Province, which contributed 10%, are ranked second and third respectively. The contributions to nominal GDP from the Western, Northwestern and the Uva provinces increased in 2022 compared to 2021, while that of the North Central Province remained unchanged. Moreover, the nominal GDP of all provinces grew substantially during the year, mainly attributable to the significant rise in price levels. In terms of the provincial contribution to economic activities, the Northwestern Province recorded the highest contribution to agriculture with a share of 18.3%. In the meantime, Southern and Central Provinces contributed 14.6% and 13.7% respectively. The Western Province remained the largest contributor to industrial activities, recording a share of 49.2% in 2022. The Northwestern and the Central Provinces were the next major contributors to the total industrial activity. In terms of service activities, the Western Province continued its dominance with a share of 45.2%, followed by the Central Province and the Northwestern Province with shares of 10% and 9.8% respectively. Now, the Colombo Stock Exchange closed in green today, aided by gains in communication services and financial stocks. The Colombo Stock Exchange all-share price index climbed 0.2% to settle at 10,626.56 points. Sri Lanka Telecom and Selinco Insurance were the top gainers on the index, rising 2.2% and 4% respectively. Trading volume on the ASPI fell to 26.7 million shares from 112.7 million shares in the previous session. The S&P Sri Lanka 20 meanwhile rose by 0.17% to end at 3,054.14 points. The market's turnover fell to 471.6 million rupees from 1.06 billion rupees in the previous session. The banking sector was the top contributor to the market turnover, whereas diversified financial sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors meanwhile remained purchasing shares worth 57 million rupees, while domestic investors were net sellers of offloading shares worth 417 million rupees. Exchange rates during the day today. Now, in your latest corporate developments, Sri Lankan Airlines welcomed the wide-bodied Airbus A330-200 aircraft wet leased from Air Belgium to its fleet. Meanwhile, a Bulgarian charter flight arrived at the Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport with over 200 tourists yesterday. With that, let's take a look at the corporate sector news for the evening. Sri Lankan Airlines recently welcomed the arrival of a wide-bodied Airbus A330-200 aircraft wet leased from Air Belgium, giving a further boost to its fleet. The aircraft has 22 business class and 240 economy class seats and is scheduled to operate on the Frankfurt, Dhaka and Dubai routes with effect from the 29th of December 2023. A second aircraft from Air Belgium is due to join the Sri Lankan Airlines fleet in mid-January 2024. Aitken Spence Travels meanwhile celebrated the arrival of the first Bulgarian charter flight for the winter 2023-2024 season at the Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport yesterday. Operated by Bulgaria Air, the flight brought over 200 enthusiastic holidaymakers eager to explore the wonders of Sri Lanka. Throughout their stay, the visitors will embark on round tours including visits to the Kandy City, the Cultural Triangle, Pinnavala, the Hill Country and the golden sandy beaches of the southern coasts. E-Channeling PLC, the doctor channeling network in Sri Lanka and a subsidiary of SLT Mobitel, clinched a bronze award in the service sector category at the Tags Award Ceremony 2023 organised by CA Sri Lanka. The Tags Award ceremony, hosted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, aims to highlight the significance of trust, individuality and collective responsibility in fostering progress, sustainability and positive change. The awards recognized organizations that excelled in corporate reporting, emphasizing pillars such as transparency, accountability, governance and sustainability. Welcome back. Now in your international news, an earthquake of magnitude 6.3 on the Richter scale occurred in Japan's Kuril Islands today. So far, no casualties have been reported. The National Center for Seismology in India stated that no tsunami warning has been issued as of yet. The agency said that the depth of the earthquake was 10 kilometers and that it occurred at 2:45 p.m. IST. Further, another earthquake measuring 5 on the Richter scale had hit the same region few minutes after the first. The depth of the second earthquake was 40 kilometers. Early on the 24th of December, an earthquake of magnitude 6.3 on the Richter scale, meanwhile, hit the Taiwan region. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of AdaDerana First at 9. Stay in touch with us on www.adaderana.lk for the latest developments around the clock. Thank you. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.